Settlement and timber harvesting had degraded Ontario's forests, and the impact did not go unnoticed. Forest fires raged across many parts of the province. Mineral extraction in the southern Canadian Shield had cleared large areas and left them prone to soil erosion and fire. Meanwhile, land clearing was spreading northward through the Great Lakes St. Lawrence forest, fueled by government settlement policies.
The government had one objective. It wanted people on the land. It wanted settlers. It didn't at that time in the area for settlement, they weren't concerned really about the timber.
James Little was somebody in the Ottawa River Valley who'd been a timber baron in that area for decades. And by the 1870s, he's starting to write reports about the need to manage these areas, to start tree planting, to start thinking about restoring the forest and taking a longer term vision to it. And again, he could be criticized, he was just motivated by economics because he was running out of timber nearby. But these, oftentimes it's the fear of economic doom that leads people to adjust their behaviors and their attitudes. And so he was one of the first voices who started speaking about those issues.
Government finally listened when lumbermen and foresters together voiced concerns about the last remaining stands of mature white pine in the province. They wanted them protected from land clearing for settlement and the human-caused fires that often followed these activities. As a result, Ontario created its first forest reserve in 1893 on lands that would later become Algonquin Park.
At one point in our history, there was a grouping of people that were located within what is now modern day Algonquin Park, and the establishment of the park meant that the government of the day had to eradicate the Algonquins from that area.
Our earliest records show that back in about the 1830s, there was forestry activity and logging beginning in Algonquin Park, the area that was before Algonquin Park. So it was really approximately 50 or 60 years after that, in 1893, when the park was created. And there was some government visionaries at the time in the late 1880s, around that time period, that saw that with the settlement going on outside Algonquin Park, land clearing, areas being cleared, that perhaps a park would be very useful here to protect the forest area from development.
We've actually had forest licenses in the Algonquin Park area since before Algonquin was a park. So we've been in the forest industry on this piece of land since the early 1890s, so 1890 and 1891. Algonquin Park became a park in 1893. So we predate the park by a couple years, and we've been harvesting on the exact same land base ever since then.
Many of the logging companies of the day, they were actually quite supportive of the concept of the park being developed, because at that time the park wasn't intended to prevent logging. It was actually seen as a way to ensure that a forest would remain in this area.
The idea at the time was to have a multi-purpose area in which people could go up and they could recreate and they could fish and they could camp, but also harvesting would go on and other activities as well, and also to protect the watersheds that originate up in the Algonquin Park area to ensure that they remained in tree cover.
Reserves were about more than just trees and recreation. Wildlife and fish populations were in decline and were to be protected as well. The location of the Algonquin Reserve was chosen because it protected the headwaters of 4 major river systems.
That's where the clean water is, and that's where our responsibility begins, is just to keep that water clean. And we still, to this day, we still use it in a traditional way. We realize now, or we've always realized, that is not only significant to us, but it's significant to all people from Ontario.